members, also known as champions, from a video game called League of Legends. These are some of the most played female champions as of June 2025. I want you to take a few seconds and mentally choose a character. Now, imagine yourself as a Latina woman, and you want to pick a character that feels familiar to you. You look at the screen, and you see that none of them are Latina women. None of them look like you. Now, maybe you decide to check out the other 162 champions from this game, and you find that Milio is the single Hispanic representing character from this game. League of Legends has been out since 2009. That is 16 years. And in 16 years, they created this character only 2 years ago. As we continue, please keep this in mind. Hello, my name is Jaden Cruz, and I am a rising senior in social work at the University of New Hampshire. I am working with my faculty mentor, Dr. Sherry Simmons-Horton, from the social work department on this research titled Representation Matters in Video Games, Exploring the Perceptions of Latina Women. And with that, I want to know, how do Latina women experience and feel about their representation and inclusivity in video games? Though this question focuses on video games, it is really about media, influence, and perception. We as consumers see a lot of different types of media. From short-form content like TikTok to movies and video games, we consume them all. With this consumption comes influence, and video games can alter audience perception using representation in narratives and character design. Latina women are nearly absent from both research literature and video games, and this research will serve as a place to fill that gap. Lastly, there is hardly representation at the video game development level, and DEI efforts are continually ineffective. To begin, I'm going to walk you through some statistics. 19% of gamers are Hispanic, 46% of gamers identify as female, 12% of main characters are women, and 8% of main character women are a race other than white. These statistics on the left come from a mass study with big video game development companies, and they found that 190 million Americans play video games of all ages. Yet, when we look at the statistics on the right, we see that women are hardly represented as main characters. There is no literature regarding Latina main characters. One major key theme that I found was this: Latinas are portrayed as over-sexualized, as criminals, or villains in media. So what might that look like? Well, here are some examples. You might have heard of a game called Grand Theft Auto 5, also known as GTA 5. And GTA 5 was the second most sold video game in the world at 215 million copies. Lucia is from the next Grand Theft Auto game. 7 seconds into the trailer, she is portrayed as a criminal and is showed in various scenes as promiscuous. Next, we have Sombra, and she is from Overwatch 2, which is an online team game with lore behind their characters. She is a villain who hacks tech and steals, also known for blackmailing and making deals for her own benefit. Lastly, we have Loba, who is a champion from Apex Legends. She is a translocating thief who seeks vengeance. Throughout the game, she is portrayed as spicy, following the stereotypes of Hispanic women through her dialogue and demeanor. She also has an over-exaggerated hourglass figure. Video games can drive narratives, and these biased designs are consumed by players. How could they have been portrayed instead? They could have been portrayed with feminismo, a cultural trait among Latinx communities that demonstrates a strong family bond. They could have been dancing, enjoying music, loving traditional food, or celebrating their culture as we Latinas love to do. Now, why might these portrayals continue to happen? As you can see, 7% of video game developers are Hispanic. And how many Latina women are involved in development? Less than 1%. Less than 1% of Latina women were employed in computer and math occupations in 2023. When development teams lack Latina voices, the created narratives lack authenticity, leading to the misrepresentation of both characters and culture. Narratives might be created by what developers only know about Latina culture, like stereotypes, rather than being culturally informed. While diversity is gradually increasing in the gaming industry for women, the federal rollback of DEI initiatives in January poses a substantial buffer to DEI initiatives for Latina developers, especially if individual gaming companies roll back their own DEI policies. Furthermore, gaming companies themselves tell a different story. Though companies pledge their commitment to DEI initiatives, executives at these companies say that initiatives check boxes, are performative for the public, have limited long-term structures, and are reactive instead of proactive. On the contrary, research suggests that video games can challenge bias and promote social justice when designed with inclusivity at the forefront. But why does this study really all matter? Growing up, I never saw positive versions of myself portrayed in the games I played at 7, 10, or 14 years old. I still never see positive versions of myself at 21 years old right now. I see my Latinx culture being used for their stereotypes to make companies richer. I see my community as only one type of Latina in video games. One that can either blow something up, steal something, be tan enough to count as Latina, or be sexy enough to be worth buying. What if I could change that? What if I could find out how more Latinas feel? What if these loopholes could change for Latina women? What if I could tell my little girl self that she is seen and heard? Well, to begin to find ways to do that, I asked a question. How do Latina women feel and experience their representation and inclusivity in video games? To answer that question, I will conduct a qualitative study this summer. I will be interviewing self-identifying Latina women who are 18 and older, play video games for at least 2 hours a week, and who reside in the United States. These interviews will also be taking place on Microsoft Teams, where video and audio will be recorded. To find participants, I will be using this flyer on the left. They will either be delivered in person or by email to various organizations and small businesses around the country, such as arcade bars. Scanning this QR code will allow participants to contact me directly and set an interview date. During the interview, I will ask a series of 8 to 10 questions using an interview protocol that serves as a guide for the conversation. My mentor will be in the call to supervise, follow up, or clarify if needed. My questions primarily ask about identity, gaming, Latina representation, and improvements that gaming companies could make. I will also be taking observational notes about the participants' body language. You might be asking what I plan on doing with this data, and I'm so glad that you asked. Microsoft Teams has a built-in transcription service, which I will use for my study. All collected data will be stored directly into Microsoft OneDrive. Then, after de-identifying responses and double-checking for accuracy of the transcription, I will use atlas.ti, which is a qualitative data program that will aid me in my coding process. I will analyze the data to find common themes among participant responses. All of my finalized data will be reported with pseudonyms. As much as I love a good study, unfortunately, there are some limitations. These limitations mostly come from participants who have individual differences in games played and lived experiences. Additionally, as video games continue to evolve, the different games might come out, and the narrative will change. Thus, experiences and perceptions may change. Video games today are not the same as they were since 1995. Who knows what they will look like in the future, especially for younger generations. To conclude, Latina women are underrepresented. They hardly exist in video games, development, and literature. They are also misrepresented when they do exist, and they are portrayed as criminals, villains, or are over-sexualized. I will conduct a qualitative study that interviews Latina women about their experiences and feelings about representation. Now, before I end, if there's anything that you take away from this research proposal, it is this. If negative portrayals happens to one group of people, can it happen to other groups? Representation affects all of us, and it can reinforce prejudice for marginalized populations and push stereotypes. How are you and your culture presented online? However, it is unclear how Latina women themselves feel about their current representation in gaming. And before understanding what changes need to be made, it is necessary to bring their voices into the research and directly to companies that design them for profit. Thank you.
So I know that you're doing your work on just like anybody who plays video games for 2 hours or more a week. Are you going to be differentiating between certain types of video games, for example, those who have human characters? Because I'm just considering like a Latina woman who very different kind of game and wouldn't have any kind of representation for them to feel any sort of way about. Are you controlling for that at all?
Right. Yes. So the data will be aggregated based on video game type, and so different responses will be put into different types of video games. But for the purpose of making sure that the identity of the participant is protected, I need to make sure that they need to be organized by game type. Okay. And additionally as well, since they do play Minecraft, if they were to only play Minecraft, they're still involved in the community of gaming. And the purpose of having that 2 hour a week at least is just to be involved enough to be able to understand. If they can play Minecraft, they might have an understanding of other games around Minecraft too. Yes.
First, I just really want to applaud you for the use of the GTA 6 example, because I've played it all my life, and I saw the first trailer, and a lot of people were really upset that one of the main characters was a woman, let alone a Latino woman. But then another trailer came out. It was like subsequent, and it showed her body, and suddenly everyone changed. Like everyone was like, "Oh, it's fine now. It's whatever, whatever." And I was like, "Oh, that's so interesting." So seeing your research really emphasizes how the portrayal matters. So my question to you is, during this crazy political climate that we're currently in the current administration, how do we get more Latino women in the writer's room to write authentic portrayals of their culture?
That's a really great question. I haven't looked at those ways yet, mostly because my research is so focused on how Latino women feel and experience, like how they're being portrayed online. However, I do know, if there's anything that I can say to that, is that when we look at DEI policies and we really think about what DEI means, it means to make sure that people feel seen and heard. The entire idea of DEI is to encourage other people from marginalized populations, such as Latino women, to get involved. And there might be some organizations that are able to do that, but I do not know what those organizations might be. However, I do feel that there needs to be some funding accounted for to ensure that we can get Latina voices involved in STEM. And so that, I believe, will be a really big changing point, especially if more people start to advocate for Latina women. Maybe we can see that shift in the future.
That's a wonderful answer. Thank you.
Yes.
So I know, as you said, like throughout this process, like you couldn't find any literature about this, and so I'm curious as to how did you come up, or like when it comes to your methodology, why did you think that that was the best way to approach this, or just kind of like explaining your process and your struggles with that of not having like previous literature to refer on, or knowing what would be the best methodologies to get the best results and things like that. Like, how was that process for you?
Thank you. Yeah, I will say it was very difficult to be able to find literature specifically on Latino women in gaming. There is an organization called the it's Latino Media Coalition, and some of my studies actually, or some of the literature that I put up here was from them, and unfortunately they're focused on Hispanic men, I believe. So I've been kind of using Hispanic men as the basis for some of the research to look further into, because there is also a lot of media portrayal, period. Not just in video games, but in film and TV shows. So one of the statistics that came up about how Latina individuals are portrayed and how Hispanics are portrayed actually comes from how Hispanic men are portrayed in film and media. And so while it is difficult, having to navigate around it and look at similar topics of interest that could be connected to this idea, I hope that this research will encourage other individuals to want to look more into it, especially Latina representation, because it's very few and far between. But yeah, using media representation has been really helpful in understanding video game representation, just because they're so similar. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I was gonna say, now your research serves as a foundation for somebody else who wants to look into this.
Okay.
So this is really good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Yes.
I have a question. I thought you did a great job.
Thank you.
Do you think that for this study, you're looking at video games and you're seeing, I think with video games there's a connection because you're sort of in the simulation and you're, moving this character and sort of emulating this character through the video game. Do you think in the future you'll look at like film and TV as well to see kind of the portrayal of Latino women in
I'm sorry, but
culture?
that is